Reading through the Bible in a year. December 7th, 2 Chronicles chapter 7, 2 John, Habakkuk chapter 2, and Luke 21. Now, when Solomon had finished praying, fire came down from heaven and consumed the burnt offering and the sacrifices, and the glory of Yahweh filled the house. And the priests could not enter the house of Yahweh because of the glory of Yahweh that filled the house of Yahweh. And all the sons of Israel, seeing the fire come down and the glory of Yahweh upon the house, bowed down on the pavement with their faces to the ground, and they worshipped and gave praise to Yahweh, saying, "For he is good, for his loving kindness endures forever." Now the king and all the people were offering sacrifices before Yahweh. And King Solomon offered a sacrifice of 22,000 oxen, 120,000 sheep. So the king and all the people dedicated the house of God. And the priests stood at their posts, and the Levites also, with the instruments of music to Yahweh, which King David had made for giving thanks to Yahweh, for his loving kindness endures forever. Whenever he gave praise by their hand, while the priests on the other side blew the trumpets, and all Israel was standing. Then Solomon set apart as holy the middle of the court that was before the house of Yahweh, because there he offered the burnt offerings and the fat of the peace offerings. For the bronze altar which Solomon had made was not able to hold the burnt offering and the grain offering and all of the fat. So Solomon celebrated the feast at that time for 7 days, and all Israel with him, and a very great assembly from Labo Hamath to the brook of Egypt. And on the 8th day they celebrated a solemn assembly. For the dedication of the altar they celebrated 7 days, and the feast 7 days. And on the 23rd day of the 7th month he sent the people to their tents, with gladness and goodness of heart, because of the goodness that Yahweh had shown to David and to Solomon and to Israel his people. Thus Solomon completed the house of Yahweh and the king's house, and all that had come into Solomon's heart to do in the house of Yahweh and in his house he did successfully. Then Yahweh appeared to Solomon at night and said to him, "I have heard your prayer, and have chosen this place for myself as a house of sacrifice. If I shut up the heavens so that there is no rain, or if I command the grasshopper to devour the land, or if I send pestilence among my people, and my people who are called by my name humble themselves, and pray, and seek my face, and turn from their evil ways, then I will listen from heaven. I will forgive their sin, and I will heal their land. Now my eyes will be open, and my ears attentive to the prayer offered in this place. So now I have chosen and set this house apart as holy, that my name may be there forever. And my eyes and my heart will be there perpetually. As for you, if you will walk before me as your father David walked, even to do according to all that I have commanded you, and will keep my statutes and my judgments, then I will establish your throne as I cut a covenant with your father David, saying, you shall not have a man cut off as ruler in Israel. But if you turn away and forsake my statutes and my commandments, which I have set before you, and go and serve other gods and worship them, then I will uproot you from my land which I have given you. And this house which I have set apart as holy for my name, I will cast out of my presence, and I will make it a proverb and a byword among all peoples. As for this house which was exalted, everyone who passes by it will feel desolate and say, why has Yahweh done thus to this land and to this house? And they will say, because they forsook Yahweh, the God of their fathers, who brought them out of the land of Egypt, and took hold of other gods, and worshipped them, and served them. Therefore he has brought all this calamity upon them. Now 2 John. Let's go ahead and read the introduction. 2 John warns against the same false teaching mentioned in 1 John. This letter, however, was addressed to, quote, the elect lady and her children, perhaps a local congregation. and focuses on on Christian hospitality. False teachers were using the kindness of Christians to gain influence within John's congregations. John's letter spoke of this danger and warned against opening one's home to one of these destroyers of the faith. While the basic themes of First John, holding fast to the truth, love, and obedience, are evident, there is the additional focus on what Christian hospitality is all about. Only when you find agreement on sound doctrine will you find meaningful fellowship. The letter was probably written by the Apostle John in the late 1st century AD. The elder, to the elect lady and her children, whom I love in truth, and not only I, but also all who know the truth. For the sake of the truth, which abides in us and will be with us forever. Grace, mercy, and peace will be with us from God the Father and from Jesus Christ, the Son of the Father, in truth and love. I rejoice greatly to find some of your children walking in truth, just as we receive commandment from the Father. Now, I ask you, lady, not as though I were writing to you a new commandment, but the one which we had from the beginning, that we love one another. And this is love, that we walk according to his commandments. This is the commandment, just as you have heard from the beginning, that you should walk in it. For many deceivers have gone out into the world, those who do not confess Jesus Christ as coming in the flesh. This is the deceiver and the Antichrist. See to yourselves that you do not lose what we accomplished, but that you may receive a full reward. Anyone who goes too far and does not abide in the teaching of Christ does not have God. The one who abides in the teaching, he has both the Father and the Son. If anyone comes to you and does not bring this teaching, do not receive him into your house and do not give him a greeting. For the one who gives him a greeting participates in his evil deeds. Though I have many things to write to you, I do not want to do so with paper and ink, but I hope to come to you and speak face to face, so that your joy may be made complete. The children of your elect sister greet you. Now Habakkuk chapter 2. I will stand on my guard post and station myself on the fortification, and I will keep watch to see what he will speak to me, and how I may respond when I am reproved. Then Yahweh answered me and said, Write down the vision, and write it on tablets distinctly, that the one who reads it may run. For the vision is yet for the appointed time. It pants toward its end, and it will not lie. Though it tarries, wait for it, for it will certainly come. It will not delay. Behold, as for the proud one, his soul is not right within him, but the righteous will live by his faith. Indeed, wine betrays the haughty man, so that he does not stay at home. He enlarges his appetite like Sheol, and is like death, never satisfied. He also gathers to himself all nations, and assembles to himself all peoples. Will not all of these lift up a taunt psalm against him, even satire and riddles against him, and say, Woe to him, who increases what is not his, for how long, and makes himself rich with loans? Will not your creditors rise up suddenly, and those who make you tremble awaken? Indeed, you will become spoil for them, because you have taken many nations as spoil. All that is left of the peoples will take you as spoil, because of human bloodshed and violence done to the land, to the town, and all its inhabitants. Woe to him who is greedy for evil gain for his house, to put his nest on high, to be delivered from the hand of evil. You have counseled a shameful thing for your house by cutting off many peoples, so you are sinning against your own soul. Surely the stone will cry out from the wall, and the rafter will answer it from the framework. Woe to him who builds a city with bloodshed, and founds a town with injustice. Is it not, behold, from Yahweh of hosts, that peoples toil for fire, and nations grow weary for nothing? For the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of Yahweh, as the waters cover the sea. Woe to you, who make your neighbors drink, who mix in your venom even to make them drunk, so as to look on their nakedness. You will be filled with disgrace rather than glory. Now you yourself drink and expose your own nakedness. The cup in Yahweh's right hand will come around to you, and utter disgrace will come upon your glory. For the violence done to Lebanon will cover you, and the devastation of its beasts by which you terrified them because of human bloodshed and violence done to the land, to the town and all its inhabitants. But profit is the graven image when its maker has engraved it, or a molten image, a teacher of lies. For its maker trusts in its own making, when he fashions speechless idols. Woe to him who says to a piece of wood, awake, to a mute stone, arise. And that is your teacher? Behold, it is overlaid with gold and silver, and there is no breath at all inside it. But Yahweh is in his holy temple. Let all the earth be silent before him. Now Luke 21. And Jesus looked up and saw the rich putting their gifts into the treasury. And he saw a poor widow putting in 2 lepta. And he said, truly I say to you, this poor widow put in more than all of them. For they all put in their gifts out of their abundance, but she, out of what she lacked, put in all that she had for living. While some were, talking about the temple, that it had been adorned with beautiful stones and dedicated gifts, Jesus said, as for these things which you are looking at, the days will come in which there will not be left one stone upon another which will not be torn down. So they questioned him, saying, Teacher, when therefore will these things take place? And what will be the sign when these things are about to take place? And he said, see to it that you are not deceived. For many will come in my name, saying, I am he, and the time is at hand. Do not go after them. And when you hear of wars and disturbances, do not be terrified, for these things must take place first, but the end does not follow immediately. And he continued to saying to them, nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there will be great earthquakes, and in various places famines and plagues. There will be terrors and great signs from heaven. But before all these things, they will lay their hands on you, and will persecute you, delivering you to the synagogues and prisons, bringing you before kings and governors for my name's sake. It will result in an opportunity for your testimony. So set in your hearts not to prepare beforehand to defend yourselves, for I will give you a mouth and wisdom which none of your opponents will be able to resist or refute. But you will be betrayed even by parents and brothers and relatives and friends, and they will put some of you to death, and you will be hated by all because of my name. Yet not a hair of your head will perish. By your perseverance you will gain your lives. But when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then know that its desolation is at hand. Then those who are in Judea must flee to the mountains, and those who are in the midst of the city must leave, and those who are in the countryside must not enter the city. Because these are the days of vengeance, so that all things which are written will be fulfilled. Woe to those who are pregnant and to those who are nursing babies in those days. For there will be great distress upon the land and wrath against this people. And they will fall by the edge of the sword and will be led captive into all the nations, and Jerusalem will be trampled underfoot by the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled. Then there will be signs in sun and moon and stars, and on the earth anguish among nations, and perplexity at the roaring of the sea and the waves, men fainting from fear and the expectation of the things which are coming upon the world. For the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Then they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. But when these things begin to take place, straighten up and lift up your heads, because your redemption is drawing near. Then he told them a parable. Behold the fig tree and all the trees. As soon as they put forth leaves, and you see it for yourselves, know that summer is now near. So you also, when you see these things happening, know that the kingdom of God is near. So you also. I already said that one. Verse 32. Truly I say to you, this generation will not pass away until all things take place. Note on this one. The Greek word usually means all the people alive at a given time, but it can also mean all of a certain kind of people. For example, the wicked or the righteous, or a particular racial or ethnic group. In Luke, quote, this generation, unquote, typically refers to those who resist God's will. We saw that in chapter 7, verse 31, chapter 11, 29 through 32, and verse 50, and verse 51, and also chapter 17, verse 25. When he used that same term, that's who he was talking about. So Jesus seems to be predicting that human opposition to God's kingdom will continue right to the consummation. Verse 33. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. But be on guard, so that your hearts will not become overcome with dissipation and drunkenness and the worries of life, and that day will not come upon you suddenly, like a trap. For it will come upon all those who inhabit the face of all the earth. But keep alert at all times, praying earnestly that you may have strength to escape all of these things that are about to take place, and to stand before the Son of Man. Now, during the day, he was teaching in the temple, but during the night he would go out and spend it on the mount called of Olives. And all the people would get up early in the morning to come to him in the temple to listen to him. That is all the reading and all the notes for today. God willing, we'll be back tomorrow. Behold, the word of the Lord.